collaboration. And Itron's really learning over the course of time how to get better and better at that. And what's really important to us is to learn in the spirit of collaboration. It doesn't just mean being a really good partner to our customer. I'd like to think part of how we got here to the level Itron is today is we've been good to customers. But I think it's really learning to partner and share in the project, share in the goals, and share in the success. And probably as important is to collaborate with the other partners that you're bringing to the table. And I think you'll hear a little bit of that from National Grid's perspective, is that they're bringing a host of companies together. I'm sure they think of us as the A-team, right? Bringing a host of companies together to deliver these true exhaustive or holistic solutions to the industry. So from an Itron perspective, we're treating the other partner companies that are being part of the project as critical to the success. Their success is Itron's success, and certainly we're all in this to make you successful, our customers. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for being willing to share what you have going on, because as I mentioned, I think it's pretty special. So with that, Itron won't be doing a lot of the speaking. We have some of our technology experts in the room, as well as from Cisco. Thank you, Cisco, for co-sponsoring. And we're really here to hear from National Grid. So our first speaker is Chris Kelly. Chris came to be National Grid's Director of Smart Grid after nearly 25 years of service to the utility and telecommunication industries. While the focus was on engineering and operations for the electric utility, Chris spent most of his time managing and directing the delivery and commissioning of distribution and substation facilities. Prior to joining the electric utility industry, Chris worked for the Department of Defense in their telecommunications sector, specializing in point-to-point communication and encryption. Chris is a graduate of Rutgers University, has his electrical engineering BSEE, and holds an MBA from WPI in Massachusetts. That kept me from saying Worcester.
We're giving the phonetic spelling.
And it still seemed to even work. Gosh, you'd think I was in communications. We also have with us Deborah Shalapa. Deborah is Smart Grid Program Director and has nearly 23 years of service to the utility industry. Debbie's main focus has been on the delivery of information systems solutions for the electric utility, but also has worked for National Grid as a substation construction project manager. Debbie is a graduate of Clark University and holds an MS MBA degree from RPI. She is a project management professional certified by the Project Management Institute and a Six Sigma Green Belt certified by the American Society of Quality. So with that, I'm going to turn this over. All of you, we've built in time to allow question and answers. So if you would, keep in mind what questions that you'd like to bring up as you're listening to the presentation, and let's get a spirited discussion going afterwards. So with that.
Great, thanks. I got the end right here. Thanks, Sherilyn. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. And I really thank you to Itron and Cisco for kind of providing this forum for us to kind of talk about, our pilot, which is going to be, we think, a huge success and a huge impact in the northeast part of the country. So, thank you so much for kind of providing this forum here. I'm going to probably talk for about 5-10 minutes, kind of give you the outline of the scope of the program, both on the customer-facing features and the grid-facing features. And then Deb will take you through a little bit of the architecture. And again, we'll try to be brief on that, because the exciting part is kind of doing the Q&A, keeping it formal and doing the open discussion, which would be great. We really can't start the conversation really without thinking about the legislation in Massachusetts. They're really progressive, and we wouldn't be here today talking about this if it really wasn't for them. The energy policymakers in Massachusetts created this thing called the Green Communities Act, and with that they've challenged and required each utility in the state to put forth a proposal that would provide dynamic pricing. Customers would use AMI metering, would use two-way communication systems, and overlay technology on the home, in the home, and on the grid. And all to save, meet or exceed 5% savings on energy on peak and on average. So the goal is that's the basic goal of the Green Communities Act. So having Massachusetts put that legislation on themselves really kept them in the game, and the Northeast in the game for doing an end-to-end smart grid pilot. So the good news is that after a long journey, which I won't bore you with that detail, but we got our pilot accepted and approved in last August, and the regulator came back and said, your size, scope, and scale is good. We like it. Your use of advanced technologies, you met or exceeded our expectations on that. You've done a good job on cybersecurity and privacy issues. You answered all our questions around those. Very thoughtful dynamic pricing rates. We'll talk about that a little bit. And they really liked the way we did outreach education. They thought it was unique, and we can certainly get into some of those discussions during the questioning. We asked for about a year's worth of implementation time with customer engagement over that year, and we asked for an 18-month monitoring period. The regulator came back and said, we took it as a very good sign. They said 2 years. Go ahead and do it for 2 years. We want to see the data over that time frame. The program's about $50 million, and because it was requested by the regulator, 45 million of that will be recovered in an accelerated fashion, five-year depreciation. So very exciting for us. We think it's very exciting for the state. They enjoyed, again, the size, scope, and scale. We'll go into that a little bit. I'll talk about where it is. It's in a place called Worcester, Mass. Not spelled that way, but that's how it's pronounced. And it's dead center in the state of Mass. It's about 40 miles due west of Boston. Most folks know where Boston is. And we like it because there's a great diversity in culture there. You have people with different backgrounds, and with people with different backgrounds have different needs and uses for technology and their beliefs about green energy and so forth. So it's a great test bed for trying to understand, how folks will react to green energy. The terrain is tough. It's very hilly in Worcester, in the city, and it's going to be a challenge for our comm systems. So we're going to look forward to the challenges that we're going to see in Worcester there. And then thirdly, it's a great microcosm of our power system. So if we're really going to try to inform a full-scale rollout, around the state and around the Northeast, it's a great microcosm for that. And the Green Communities Act started with, based on the percentages that they wanted us to try to test on, it only would have required about 3,000 customers, and we just said that's not enough in our pilot to really get relative stats back around home energy technology, dynamic rates, and the grid-facing features. So we bumped it up to 15,000, and again, we got approval to do 15,000 customers in the city of Worcester. And I'll talk a little about the features that are going to be on the system. I'll start with the customer and work backwards. Right, there's going to be heavy customer engagement, more so and more exciting than utilities are used to doing with customers. So we talked about partners. We have a lot of partners we brought on in that space. Navigant in the evaluation space, Smart Mark in the marketing space. Just to name a few. And it's all about customer choice, right? We want to give the customers choice in everything we do, right? So the first choice they're going to have is opting out. If they don't want to play in the pilot, they don't have to, okay? They can say, I don't want to play, and then we'll go try to find another customer to make up that 15,000. All right, that's the first choice. The second choice is dynamic pricing. We're going to have critical peak pricing and peak time rebates, and basically that's going to be around lowering the overall rate on most of the time of the year, and then during peak times the rate jumps up by 10 and 100 times. Right? So if you think about 5-6 cents a kilowatt hour for energy use, which is lower than our current rate today, and then during those critical peak times it's jumping up to 50 and 60 cents, really to try to drive people off that peak. What we're doing for those customers, those rates were kind of based on what we're calling revenue neutral. So what we're trying to do with that is, over the course of the year, if you're a customer and did nothing different in your behavior, your bill would overall be on average about what it would have been on the old days. Okay, so it's really an opportunity savings and not a penalty type rates that are on there. So again, we have critical peak pricing. Go ahead and answer questions on that. Peak time rebate, which is another form of that for our residential customers. And then we're going to have an hourly kind of day-ahead program for our larger commercial customers in there. So that's the second choice, right? So they can opt out if they don't want to play. If they want to play, they're going to have a choice of dynamic rates, right? The third choice is tools inside the home. We're going to put 3 types of tools inside the home. We're going to put a display. It's a company we're partnering with called SIVA. It's a picture frame technology, and their expertise is lacing in, how the household is running while it's showing pictures of their, personal pictures. So we felt it was a really engaging technology for the customer. versus, a green digital display on the wall like a thermostat, right? So this is kind of inside their home. It's about their life, and oh, by the way, it's, here's how your household's running in the middle of those pictures there. The other technology we're going to put in is a smart thermostat from a company called EcoFactor. And it's better and it does more analytics and around your home, inside your home, outside your home, how your house cools up, how your house cools down, how your house heats up. So it does that. It does a lot of sampling about those thermodynamics inside your house, and really does a good job of trying to maintain savings, but also while maintaining comfort. It'll allow automatic, reprogramming of settings, or allow the customer to intervene when needed. The third thing is going to be put a load control device in, right? So we're going to allow customers to put, control loads in their house, and it'll tell them how that load is operating. Right, so that's the choices we have. We're going to give those tools in 4 different buckets, and we're going to allow the customers to choose these buckets, okay? The first bucket's going to be, you're going to get an AMI meter, you're going to get access to your data more so than you ever have before, and you're going to get education about how to save. And the access is going to be through mobile devices and through, through web portals, okay? That's level 1. So if you don't want any technology in your home, you can just say, I want information and I want to see how my household's operating, through the web and through my mobile phone. That's all I want. That's level 1. Level 2 choice is going to be, we'll throw a display on that mix. Okay, so you get the SIVA display on that mix. So if you want a little bit, of this technology like in your home about, constantly reminding you how your household's operating without having to go to the web or, go to your portable device, you can have a display. The third level is going to be the thermostat, right? You're going to get the AMI meter, the education, the access, but you're going to get the EcoFactor thermostat, right, to control your HVAC system, okay, without the display. The fourth level is going to be, you're going to get all the tools. You're going to get everything from the AMI meter to the education, to the access, to the display, to the thermostat, to the load control device, okay? And we're going to run demand response events, right? So the utility is going to run demand response events if you choose to participate for the HVAC, the thermostat, and also the load control. And we're going to try to fill those 4 levels. So if you think about what the customer has to choose, they're going to choose the dynamic rate that's going to suit their lifestyle. We're going to educate them on how to pick those. We're going to try to educate them on what sets of technology based on how they live their life, what might be best for them. But again, it's going to be their free choice. Behind the scenes, we're kind of monitoring, trying to fill those buckets, right? So we want a certain amount of homes to have each level, right? Because at the end, the goal is to be able to tell the Massachusetts energy policymakers what worked and didn't work. So if you think about a matrix of the customer segmentation types across the top, and the dynamic rates and the technologies they chose down the side, at the end of the pilot, we're going to be able to kind of draw big circles around that matrix and say, here's what worked and here's what didn't work, to inform the state about what might the model be going forward from that point on. And that takes care of kind of what's in the home and on the home. Deb's going to talk about how all this connects together, give you a little bit of summary on that. And one thing that came out of our customer engagement was the customers really wanted National Grid to kind of step up and do a little more in the community. And they asked us to kind of put in what we're calling a sustainability hub. It's going to be a place in downtown Worcester that you can go, whether you're in the pilot or out of the pilot, and get educated about green energy, about what we're doing in the pilot, about what you can do on your own. And this is a place for people that are outside the pilot, give them an opportunity to do that. They said, National Grid, you have engineers, you do a lot of training, step it up and jump in the community and help us out and train us. So that's something that came out of the engagement that we had. And that's kind of the customer, what we're calling the customer-facing features inside our pilot. On the grid side, we're going to be doing advanced, what we're calling advanced distribution applications. We're going to be doing the latest and greatest in distributed intelligence around switching, and we're going to be doing advanced capacitor control, and we're going to be doing a lot of monitoring and fault locating. And this is really all to drive reliability, better reliability, reduce losses, release capacity on the system to allow us to redeploy capital around the system, and in the end have a better experience for the customer on the grid side. And with that, that's kind of the scope and scale of the program. I'll just mention on the grid side, there's going to be about, let me just mention this, there's 5 substations, for those are power system folks. There's 5 substations, 11 feeders that make up that 15,000 pockets of customer out there. And there's going to be about 180 points on the distribution system that makes up those advanced distribution applications. If you think about it, our view, and this is typical for a lot of utilities, I know some people are beyond it, the view of what's going on the system tends to stop at the substation. We're already putting about 15 to 20 points on each feeder that we never had before about how it's operating, better plan and operate that system, and run that system closer to the margins that we ever had. So with that, I'll turn it over to Deb, and you can go through a little bit about how it's connected, and I look forward to Q&A.
Great, thank you. Would you mind putting the slide up? I figured it would be easier if we could actually see what I'm talking about. You know, with us, as far as the technology, it's kind of go big or go home. We're encompassing everything. We have several vendors. I'd like to start in the home. And as Chris talked about the EcoFactor thermostat with the thermodynamic analytics, it's a very smart thermostat. It learns the habits of the customer, kind of works those in with the outdoor temperature inside the home, keeps things at a comfortable level for the customer. One of the big selling pieces of the EcoFactor thermostat for us was the whole pre-cooling piece of it, which we believe in our heart of hearts that if the in-home stays comfortable, then the customer will stay in the event and not opt out of event. The next one Chris talked about was the SIVA display, and that's kind of in the middle of the home there. It's a wonderful display. It will display customers' personal pictures. We're also using, through the internet, we're going to put in messages about different events in the community, or tips on saving energy usage, different things like that. The SIVA display we're also using as a gateway. So that's another a usage of that for us. Most of the components in the home are going to communicate with using the Zigbee technology. We also have the load control device, which SIVA is actually bringing to the table for us. We're going to have a hardwired load control device for hot water heaters, solar pool pumps, things like that. And we're also going to have your standard plug-in for your lamps. One of the most important, and I can say that with all of the Itron people in the room, is the meter. The meter is the heart, right? That's what we just said. Yes, yes, I know you're all happy. The meter technology, we're using actually with the Itron stack, as I'm calling it, we're using the boron release. It's a special release. It's kind of National Grid's release. And Ron, you can keep me honest if I say something incorrectly. It includes the IPv6. We're using that now in our early field trial. We don't have a lot of the in-home devices out there in the homes, but we have them in our lab. And everything has gone through successfully, right from reading off the 5,000 meters in the field to actual billing. So we've gone straight through the process. Not like it will be in the pilot, but pretty close enough that we have a very good comfort level.
Just to let folks know, the pilot is 15,000. The early field trial Deb's talking about is we went out earlier, prior to even getting approval, and put 5,000 of them in. We didn't roll out any in-home technology. We didn't ask the customers to behave differently. We just wanted to test the ability to roll these out, test the communication systems end to end, and we learned a ton during that process. So that's where the 5,000 you hear the early field trial coming from. Go ahead.
Right, thank you, Chris. And we actually deployed 9 of the CGRs out in the field for the early field trial. So we're getting a good feel, lessons learned. As you can see in the middle there, the meters, they work in a mesh functionality, excuse me, and it's a self-healing mesh. We've actually seen that happen. We had a couple of the meters go out for whatever reason, and the other meters picked up, and the CGR, and it went through almost seamlessly. The CGRs are another part of the communication in the LAN area, and the CGRs right now include an AT&T card in them. In the not so distant future, we're going to go to the next phase where we're going to have the WiMAX card and the Verizon 3G. The reason we have both is for redundancy. In case one fails, we have something else to rely on. We're also going to hope to get to the 4G LTE, which is available in the Worcester area. I have a very bad Massachusetts accent, so hopefully people can understand me.
And that's, just so, that's the Cisco, the CGR to the Cisco Itron partnership that we're leveraging during the
And Felix, you can correct me if I'm wrong on anything there. So I have my list of vendors because we have so many different people that we're partnering with this pilot. The communications will go back from the WiMAX card to the WiMAX base stations through a private cloud, a private Verizon cloud that's being developed for just National Grid, and it will go one or two ways for like the EMS system for the grid device data that's communicated from the device through the CGR into our EMS system, or from the meter through the cloud into our billing. Now, as I said, we've actually billed. What we've done is we've, through a secure transfer, we've taken our normal process, our file that we collect as they drive around in the trucks. We've taken that file, passed it to Itron, who's taken the meter file that's collected in the MDM and merged them together, FTP'd it back into National Grid, and successfully billed using the IPv6 and all the securities in place, and without one problem. We didn't have one complaint on one bill. So we're very proud of that. And that we didn't bring the billing system down, so we're really proud of that.
Yeah, the nice thing, they come and jumping into the nice thing about doing the 5,000 and just basically, asking the customers, bear with us as a baby step in a modernization. You're going to hear more about it later. We were able to build them the way they would get built today, seamlessly, like Deb said, but we also, through another register, got time of use data. So almost for a year now, we have, for 5,000 customers in the pilot area, we have time of use data in basically a way that's unchanged behavior, if you will. So we got a great baseline there. We're looking at, so we got a summer's worth, went through the summer and got that. So nice little feature there we picked up with doing the 5,000 early.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. We've recently partnered with Simple Energy. And Simple Energy, and we're still working out the details. As everybody knows, we're into our design phase of our architecture, and we're trying to determine if Simple Energy will house the usage data, that the customer will go to the Simple Energy portal to view their data, or if we'll actually have them look at it via the National Grid web portal. And I think we're working out some of that detail. We are going to have available, as most of you know, we're reading the meters every 15 minutes, some meters every 5 minutes. That data gets collected in the meter, and we're going to have an on-demand read available to the customer, where at any given time they'll get 29 days worth of data that has gone through the verification of the VEE process, and an additional day of data that will be collected directly from the meter. And we believe it's from the meter. As I said, we're still working through that. So they're going to help us with that. We've also partnering with a company called Grid Maven. And Grid Maven is really the network manager of the network management systems. So they provide us that end-to-end view of the communications in the network and how everything's working. And we believe that's going to be a very important tool. It'll show us where some of the issues are, and we're looking